This is a very sad story, one of manipulation, abuse, and neglect. Today, I'm going to tell you all the developments in the death of actor Matthew Perry and why at least 5 people have been indicted for murder. But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any video. Perry, our beloved Chandler from Friends, once said that addiction is a disease that's always lurking on the other side of the door, waiting for the right moment to catch you alone. For him, the danger was in being alone, and as long as he had a support network, people close to him, he would be okay. He would be safe. This is extremely infuriating because it was those close to him who conspired to take his life. It wasn't when he was alone. It was when he thought he had people he could trust. In October of last year, everyone was shocked by the news of the death of actor Matthew Perry, who had become a permanent fixture in everyone's hearts for his iconic role in Friends. The actor's body was found at his home in LA, and at first, authorities believed he had drowned in his bathtub after suffering a cardiac arrest. But now, new information about the case has come to light after an extensive and secret investigation by the American justice system, an investigation that has revealed that the star was actually a victim of murder and that at least 5 people were involved. First, you need to understand that Matthew was always very honest about his battle with addiction. Not that he had much choice, as he couldn't really hide that part of his life since Friends put the entire cast under a microscope. The public followed the weight changes, the hospitalizations, the headlines, the tabloids, and Matthew himself shared some of his story in his book, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. Released in 2022. Alcohol, drugs, prescription medications, whatever you can imagine, Matthew Perry fought against it. And why am I talking about all this? Because before his death, Matthew was undergoing treatment with a very strong painkiller, ketamine, which was helping him with his anxiety and depression. From what I researched, it hasn't been long since the use of ketamine for patients with suicidal ideation and treatment-resistant depression was approved. It's a relatively recent development, and Matthew had started this treatment precisely because of his depression. The person in charge of scheduling his medical appointments and ensuring he took the medication correctly was his personal assistant, a guy named Will Iwamasa, one of the people now indicted for the actor's death. Initially, Matthew was following the treatment correctly, taking the prescribed dose of ketamine, but over time, he felt the need to increase the dose. When the doctors refused to do so, he started looking for the drug elsewhere, and a month before his death, he asked his assistant to get ketamine for him through illegal means. It was at this point that Iwamasa was introduced to Dr. Salvador Plasencia, who agreed to traffic ketamine. In a text exchange with another doctor, Mark Chavez, Salvador said, "I wonder how much this idiot is going to pay." This doctor provided a total of 22 vials of ketamine, as well as tablets of the same drug, through a fraudulent prescription. Just to give you an idea of how the whole thing worked, Matthew's assistant, Will Iwamasa, bought the drugs from Dr. Salvador, who in turn obtained them through a fake prescription signed by Mark Chavez. So here we have 2 trained doctors who swore to protect and care for lives, exploiting a patient's addiction to make money off it. These 2 doctors have also been indicted by the justice system. According to Matthew's assistant, the first meeting between everyone involved took place in a parking lot near Long Beach, California, when Dr. Salvador Plasencia met with Matthew Perry and, in the backseat of his car, injected the actor with ketamine. It's estimated that in total, Matthew paid around $55,000 for ketamine. It's also said by the justice system that the doctors charged $2,000 per vial, a vial that Mark Chavez obtained for $12. So look at the profit margin these guys had. Moreover, it was during this meeting in the parking lot that Salvador taught Will Iwamasa, a personal assistant with no medical training, how to inject ketamine into Matthew Perry. What kind of doctor does that? Meeting with someone in a parking lot, in the backseat of a car, accepting cash to sell a drug without a prescription, and then teaching an untrained person how to inject it. This guy, Salvador Plasencia, is a murderer. He gave a tutorial to Matthew Perry's assistant on how to kill someone. I don't even need to say that Matthew Perry had a relapse. He wasn't using ketamine correctly anymore. but instead like a character from the movie Pulp Fiction. And now he had become a high-class drug trafficker in LA. 18 days before Matthew Perry's death, Eric Fleming sent a message to the actor saying he could arrange ketamine at a good price as long as he received a tip for it. With Matthew agreeing to this deal, Eric Fleming became the middleman between the actors and a woman named Jasmine Sandhu, known as the Queen of Ketamine, because she only worked with high-profile Hollywood celebrities. It's so sad how everyone saw a fallen man, a sick man, an addicted man, and no one reached out to help. Everyone's interest was only in making more and more money off this guy. The justice system claims that this Queen of Ketamine was the person who sold the fatal dose to Matthew Perry. With this new contact, now able to buy even more ketamine, the actor began receiving even higher doses of the drug. The personal assistant said that in one instance, Matthew suffered total paralysis after the injection, and he was unable to speak or move for a few moments, while everyone around him tried to manage a spike in his blood pressure. This assistant also said that in the month leading up to Matthew Perry's death, he found his boss unconscious several times. It was a tragedy waiting to happen. This death could have been avoided if someone had sought help, if someone had reached out to Matthew Perry's family, his friends, or even the media, but no one did or said anything. I'm extremely outraged by this story. Some say that Will Iwamasa was just following his boss's orders as a personal assistant and was afraid of losing his job. But come on, if your boss, an A-list Hollywood actor, asks you to go buy drugs, do you just go and do it? I don't know, I'm not buying that. Especially now that someone is dead and this guy is facing 15 years in prison, it would have been much better for him to have sought help, right? It would have been much better to lose his job than to spend 15 years behind bars. Anyway, no one did anything, and Matthew Perry continued receiving the drug from Eric Fleming and Jasmine Sandhu. Iwamasa said that in his final days, Matthew was injecting ketamine 6 to 8 times a day. On the day the actor died, he asked his assistant to administer the first injection in the morning, around 8:30 a.m. 4 hours later, while watching a movie at home, he took another injection. In the next 40 minutes, he asked for a third dose, saying, "Give me a big one," meaning he wanted a large injection of ketamine. Then, the assistant left the house to run some errands, and when he returned, he found Matthew Perry unconscious face down in the bathtub. Upon seeing this scene, he texted Eric Fleming, who immediately told everyone to delete their messages, get rid of the vials, and try to clean up the scene. After the news of their former co-star's death, the Friends cast released a statement saying that they were all devastated. It said, "We were more than just castmates, we are family." There is so much to say, but for now, we're taking a moment to grieve and process this unfathomable loss. In time, we will say more, as and when we are able. For now, our thoughts and our love are with Matty's family, his friends, and everyone who loved him around the world. A few months later, in December 2023, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office confirmed that Matthew Perry died from acute ketamine effects. The autopsy revealed that the level of ketamine in his blood was equivalent to the amount needed for general anesthesia. As I said, what angers me the most is that this was a tragedy waiting to happen. This death could have been avoided if the right people had been around him. It breaks my heart to look back and see that interview from the early 2000s, where Jennifer Aniston talks about the possibility of losing Matthew to addiction, and she cries just thinking about it. It destroys me to think that decades later, the worst happened. That this fear was realized. Last week, the US Department of Justice concluded an investigation, determining that Matthew Perry was murdered. So far, 5 people have been charged. They are Will Iwamasa, the personal assistant; Salvador Plasencia, the doctor who introduced the drug to Perry; Mark Chavez, the doctor who falsified the prescription; Eric Fleming, who contacted the Queen of Ketamine; and Jasmine Sandhu, who provided the fatal dose. And I hope these people pay for what they did, because even though Matthew Perry asked them for drugs, a good person would never have done this. A good person would have sought help. A good person would have given their life to save the life of someone else. This could have been avoided if the right people had been around. It's truly heartbreaking to see how someone who brought so much joy to millions could be surrounded by such darkness. Matthew Perry's story is a sobering reminder that fame and success do not shield anyone from the perils of addiction and betrayal. As we remember him, let's also reflect on the importance of compassion, integrity, and the responsibility we have to support those who are struggling. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. See you in the next one.